In this lesson, we'll explore creating new tools using the Integrated Tool Manager. And to start, I'll go into the Tool Manager inside of Mastercam, and down in my library here, I'm going to right-click and choose Create Tool. And we'll create multiple tools here to explore the process. We'll start with a flat end mill. If I hit Next, as you can see, we have some parametric values on the left. And by changing these values, you'll see the preview updates. And you can graphically spin this preview around. So let's just say the overall length is 2. And the cutting length is 0.75. Now, if you type in a value that is incorrect, it will error out. So as an example, since the overall length is 2, if I type in a cutting length of 2.2, it will error out because mathematically that's not possible. So if that's the case, just make sure that you update the values. And in this case, notice once I change this cutting length back, the shoulder length is still incorrect. So you will have to work with this information a little bit to get it back to the way you want it. So now the shoulder length is 1.8. The shoulder diameter, let's just say the shoulder diameter is 0.5. You can see now that it updates things. And you can make some pretty unrealistic tools here. However, this is how you would create a new tool, and it's a parametric value, which is what Mastercam uses to create the actual toolpath motion. So let's put some realistic values in here. In this case, the cutting diameter will be 1/4 inch. The shoulder diameter will be 1/4 inch. The shank diameter will also be 1/4 inch. But our shoulder length, let's just make that 1 inch. If we want to put some corner treatment on it, we can. In this case, we'll put a 0.625 radius on it. And then we'll hit Next. And we can choose a tool number. Let's make that tool number 10. And we can type in our default SFMs and our feed per tooth, how many flutes we have, and then the feed rate, plunge rate, and retract rate. We can also expand this down and turn on our coolant values if we want to set up any sort of coolant settings. Let's hit cancel there. And finally, you can put a custom name here, as well as a description. And if you have a manufacturer name, it's often useful to put in as much information as possible, because if you have dozens and dozens of tools that you're adding, sometimes it can get a little confusing which one goes where. So the more information you add here, the better. And finally, you can set whether this is a roughing and or a finishing tool and what the approximate step overs are in percentage of tool diameter. When you hit finish, that tool gets created down here. And this method of creating a tool is very useful for some of your standard tools. So as an example, your flat end mills, your bull and your ball nose are pretty standard. However, what happens if you downloaded a file from a tool catalog and you want to use that file? Well, there's a different approach for that, and we'll explore that in our next lesson.